Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos. The main character, after dying in his previous life, wakes up inside of DC. Inside of DC, he creates the ninja world, or more well known as Naruto. What is the ninja world and DC gonna do?
DC, what if I create Ninja World at the start? Chapter 1, The World on Red Dust. I opened my eyes to silence. It wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that made your ears ache, as if the air itself had forgotten what sound was. The ground beneath me was made of red dust that clung to my feet like ash. The sky above was orange and empty. I moved my hand. The fingers were wrong, too long, sharp at the tips, faintly shifting in color like oil under light. My reflection twisted in the air around them. Truck headlights, impact, nothing, then this. I stood completely still. No heartbeat, no lungs drawing air, yet I was alive, or something close to it. I could feel my own presence ripple through space, thin and elastic. The realization slid into my mind slowly. The weaker pull of gravity, the metallic taste of the air, the absolute quiet. Mars. I had died on Earth and awakened here. Not as human, not even close. I turned my hand again, studying it with steady focus. Energy moved through the veins under my skin, faintly glowing blue like plasma. The flow resonated with the air itself. It wasn't chakra, it was Kai. It was older, unrefined power, the kind that could rewrite anything if given shape. I smiled. A dimensional demon, I said quietly. The words came out calm, but the sound echoed in the emptiness like thunder breaking through glass. I tilted my head, looking toward the void above. The memory of stories returned, bright and sharp. The heroes, the cities, the names, Metropolis, Gotham, Superman, the Flash. This was that world, DC. So that's how it is, I muttered. It wasn't disappointment, more like curiosity that had found a target. My senses stretched out further, touching the void between worlds. Every planet shimmered like a bead of glass connected by invisible strings. I could feel Earth from here, dense, alive, full of noise. And I could feel the hunger in me, not for food or control, but for something to do, something to build. The idea came easily. If this was a universe full of gods, heroes, and chaos, then it needed something unfamiliar, something to make even them question what was real. I crouched, pressing my claws into the Martian soil. Let's see if I still remember how to build. The dust shifted. Ripples of power spread outward, silent but deep enough to shake the surface. The planet's crust bent and then unfolded like a reflection breaking apart. I reached inward into memory. Forests of chakra, villages of hidden names, the clash of nations built on pride and ambition. The ninja world. I didn't imagine it. I constructed it. Every layer, the mountains of the land of fire, the deserts of wind country, the ocean reaching out to the mist. Villages formed one by one, Konoha, Suna, Kiri, Kumo, Iwa, all placed on the back of this red planet like a mirror reality. It was beautiful in its rawness. The world hummed once and stabilized. From where I stood, it looked like a faint blue sphere floating just above the surface of Mars, invisible to all but me. The air inside it was alive, spinning with chakra-laced wind. The forests grew fast, shaped by my will, their roots spreading through space like threads of glass. Then came the people. I formed them exactly as I remembered, each memory solidified into matter. Naruto, loud and impulsive, his energy radiating with warmth even before he opened his mouth. Sasuke, cold and sharp, watching everything with quiet judgment. Sakura, attentive, trying too hard to impress. Kakashi, half bored, half interested, his lazy posture hiding calculation. They existed perfectly, alive, breathing, moving through their early days as Team 7. I crossed my arms, watching them from high above. Creating wasn't difficult. The structure of their chakra pathways, their histories, their emotions, it all unfolded automatically. What caught my attention wasn't the creation itself, but what came after. A sound broke the stillness. a mechanical chime, soft and low, ringing inside my head. Make the DC believe the ninja world is real. Reward pending. I blinked once. The voice faded. I didn't answer it, but I understood. That was part of the game now. Entertainment, purpose, and a challenge. Fine, I said. Let's make it interesting. I adjusted the alignment of the new world's dimension, tethering it faintly to Earth's magnetic field so that traces of its existence could leak through. Then I smiled, watching the clouds swirl above the forests. Somewhere down below, Team 7 was standing together for the first time after becoming an official squad. I could hear their conversation faintly through the chakra echo. Naruto's voice carried easily. Hey, Sensei, what kind of missions are we gonna do? Something awesome, right? Like fighting bandits or something. Kakashi's voice came next, steady, almost lazy. We'll start with something simple. D-rank missions, chores. What? Naruto's frustration hit the air like static. That's so lame. Sakura sighed. You should be happy we're even getting real missions now, Naruto. Sasuke said nothing. His silence was heavier than the others, words combined. He stood slightly apart, eyes narrowed toward the distant gates of Konoha, as if already planning how to leave. I felt a quiet amusement rise in me, exactly as they should be. But then I tilted my head. A ripple formed in the new world's dimensional field, small, unstable, like a glitch in a simulation. Naruto's energy flared, uncontrolled. He and Sasuke were bickering again, their chakra clashing like static charges. Kakashi didn't stop them quickly enough. The clash triggered the imbalance. The air warped. A shimmer opened beneath them, like the surface of water breaking under pressure. The team froze. Sakura stepped back. What's happening? Kakashi's single visible eye narrowed. Move back, now. The ground vanished under their feet. The portal swallowed them whole before any of them could react. I watched their chakra signatures vanish from the ninja world's field entirely, pulled through the gap that connected it faintly to Earth. I looked up toward the blue-green planet hanging above Mars. A pulse of chakra appeared on its surface, 4 of them. Oh, I murmured. Well, that's unexpected. For a moment, I considered sealing the tear. I could have closed it instantly, but I didn't. Instead, I smiled. Let's see what happens. I shifted through space, crossing the distance between Mars and Earth in seconds. The world expanded beneath me, oceans, continents, clouds moving like breath. My senses followed the trail until it ended in the middle of a quiet farm surrounded by cornfields and wooden fences. Rural Kansas. I landed on the edge of the field, invisible to human sight, the soil crunching faintly under my feet. The portal closed above the ground, leaving behind 4 unconscious figures lying in the dirt beside an old barn. Superman's farm. The air carried the smell of soil, hay, and distant rain. Naruto groaned first, his voice muffled. Ow, what the where are we? He pushed himself up, covered in dust, his orange jacket streaked with mud. Sakura sat up next, looking around with wide eyes. This isn't the village. Sasuke was already on his feet, eyes darting to the sky and horizon. This place isn't anywhere near Konoha. The air's wrong. Kakashi's voice came from behind them, calm but firm. Stay alert. We were pulled through a spatial distortion. He looked up, scanning the sky. No signs of chakra. Interesting. Naruto frowned. So what now? Where are we? Before anyone could answer, a distant voice called out. Hello, is someone out there? A man's voice, deep, steady, cautious. I didn't need to see him to know. Clark Kent, in his work clothes, walking out from the farmhouse, wiping his hands on a cloth. His dog barked twice before running ahead. Sakura tensed immediately. Someone's coming. Kakashi stepped forward, his visible eye narrowing. Don't move until I say so. Superman walked closer, pretending to be an ordinary man. His steps were slow, careful. His gaze softened when he saw them. You kids all right? You look lost. Naruto blinked at him. Yeah, kinda. We're fine, I think. Sasuke stayed silent, studying Clark's every movement. Kakashi gave a polite nod, the kind of casual gesture meant to lower suspicion. We had a transportation accident. Could you tell us where we are? Clark smiled slightly, still playing the part. You're on my farm, outside Smallville, Kansas. Naruto's mouth dropped open. Kansas, what's that? Sakura gave him a look. Naruto, don't say it like that. Clark chuckled softly. You really aren't from around here, huh? Kakashi's gaze sharpened for half a second. You could say that. The tension between them was subtle, but clear. Superman could sense the strangeness in their presence, the faint hum of chakra he couldn't identify. And Kakashi could tell there was something impossibly strong about the man standing in front of them. I stood a few feet away, unseen, watching. The air around Clark shimmered faintly, his heat vision scanning their gear, their bodies, trying to analyze what he was seeing. He'd find nothing recognizable. The physics of their chakra didn't exist in this universe. Naruto scratched his head. So, we're kinda lost. You got any ramen? Clark laughed once, shaking his head. Can't say I do, but you're welcome to come inside. My mom's cooking dinner. You can explain everything then. Sakura hesitated. We shouldn't just follow strangers. Kakashi interrupted calmly. We'll go. We need information. Sasuke gave a quiet HN, then followed without complaint. I watched as they walked toward the farmhouse, still disoriented but adapting quickly. Superman stayed close, keeping an eye on them, while I remained in the shadow of the barn, invisible and still. Everything had begun moving on its own. I could already feel ripples spreading through the world, 4 new chakra signatures on Earth, registering faintly across every energy-sensitive being on the planet. Batman would notice soon. So would the League. I folded my arms again. That's one way to make them believe. The wind moved gently through the cornfield. Above us, the dimensional layers shimmered, holding stable. The ninja world still floated on Mars, untouched, but now a piece of it was walking through Clark Kent's backyard. And that was enough to start everything. Chapter 2, The Field of Arrival. The sound of footsteps moved across the soil as Superman led the 4 strangers toward the house. The wind across the fields had settled into a low, steady rhythm, the air faintly cooling as the sun dipped closer to the horizon. Shredder followed from a distance, his form invisible in the dim light, staying far enough not to be seen, but close enough to hear their words. Clark walked at an easy pace, one hand gesturing toward the path. It's just up this way. You can wash up and rest a bit. Naruto followed beside him, his movements restless. He kept turning his head in every direction, studying the crops, the barns, the quiet horizon. Man, this place is huge. What do you grow here? Corn, Clark answered. Mostly. Corn, Naruto repeated the word, uncertain. You mean like the little yellow stuff they put in stew? Clark nodded. That's right. Sakura walked a few steps behind them, looking more cautious. Her hands stayed folded in front of her. This really doesn't look like anywhere near the land of fire. The stars even look different. Kakashi glanced at her briefly. It's possible the portal displaced us across more than one-dimensional field. I can't sense chakra beyond this immediate area. The energy here is structured differently. Sasuke didn't say anything. His eyes moved from the farmhouse to the open sky and then back again. The silence between him and Kakashi felt normal. They never needed to say much to understand one another. Shredder watched all of them move across the dirt path. The distance between these two worlds, the calm, grounded life of this farm and the chaotic drive of the young ninja, looked clear even without words. He said nothing, simply observing how easily Clark adjusted to the unusual scene. When they reached the porch, Clark stepped forward and opened the screen door. You can come in. My mom's home. She won't mind. Naruto hesitated for a moment at the threshold, His expression softened when he smelled something cooking. Is that food? Clark smiled slightly. Homemade dinner. You're in luck. Naruto brightened instantly. All right. Sakura sighed. Don't embarrass us. Kakashi followed them in without comment. Sasuke moved last, eyes lingering on Clark for an extra second before stepping inside. Shredder remained outside, standing in the tall grass. He could hear every word through the structure's walls. He wanted to watch what would happen without changing anything. Inside, the light was warm. The wooden floor creaked slightly under their sandals. Martha Kent turned from the stove when she heard them. She looked up, pausing when she saw the four unfamiliar young faces. Clark, she said, wiping her hands on a towel. Who are your friends? They got lost somehow, Clark said evenly. Found them out by the field, thought they could use a meal. Martha gave a small nod, instantly taking the situation in stride. Well, you all look like you've had a rough day. Sit down, please. Naruto grinned, already sliding into a chair. Thank you, ma'am. Sakura sat next to him, giving him a quiet, warning look. Try not to talk with your mouth full this time. He frowned. I don't always do that. Kakashi sat across from them, still watchful but polite. He rested his arms lightly on the table. Sasuke stayed near the window, close enough to respond, but far enough to keep view of the outside. Martha brought over a plate of bread and a pot of stew. It's not much, but it's fresh. Naruto clasped his hands together. Thank you for the food. He didn't wait for anyone else to start. He took a spoonful and immediately smiled. This is great. You're a really good cook, lady. Martha smiled faintly, half amused by the enthusiasm. I'm glad you like it. Sakura sighed again, but began to eat quietly. Kakashi tried the food without visible reaction, though he gave a small appreciative nod. Sasuke ate slowly, his attention still divided between the room and the window. Clark leaned against the counter, his arms folded loosely. So, where exactly are you all from? Kakashi looked up. We're from the land of fire, a village called Konoha. Clark nodded slowly. I don't think I've heard of it. Naruto swallowed quickly. It's a hidden village. We're ninja. You know, missions, training, saving people, that kind of thing. Martha raised her eyebrows slightly, but smiled. That sounds like a very brave thing to do. Sakura smiled politely. We're still learning, but yes, we train for that. Clark studied the strange metal forehead plates they wore. Those symbols, are they part of your uniform? Kakashi answered calmly. They represent our village. Each symbol marks where a shinobi serves. Clark nodded again. Interesting. Sounds like you take it seriously. Naruto grinned. Of course we do. One day I'm gonna be Hokage. Sakura muttered under her breath. He says that a lot. Kakashi chuckled quietly behind his mask. Sasuke didn't react, his gaze still fixed on the movement outside. Clark noted every detail. The energy that flickered faintly around them when they moved, the disciplined rhythm of their breathing, and the compact, balanced weight distribution in their posture. It reminded him more of trained soldiers than lost children. Shredder could sense Clark's growing focus. The Kryptonian was beginning to notice that their bodies didn't match any known human structure. Their internal energy was foreign, something even his microscopic vision couldn't categorize. Clark reached for the back of a chair and sat down. I have to say, you don't sound like anyone from around here. You said ninja. What kind of training is that? Naruto straightened a little, proud. We learn how to fight using chakra. It's like energy that flows inside us. You can make jutsu with it, techniques. Martha tilted her head. Techniques. Sakura explained quickly. We manipulate chakra to create effects. For example, she stopped herself before demonstrating anything. It's easier to show than explain. Clark smiled slightly. Maybe later, if you're comfortable. Sasuke finally turned from the window. Someone's coming. Clark's posture barely changed, but his eyes focused on the horizon. He could already hear the faint hum of an approaching engine long before it reached the road. Martha glanced toward the sound. That'll be the neighbors returning from town. Sasuke relaxed slightly, but didn't drop his guard completely. Naruto leaned back. Man, this place is quiet. No guards, no gates, no Hokage office, nothing. Clark chuckled softly. We like it peaceful here. Naruto grinned. Must be nice. Kakashi's attention drifted for a moment. Peace is rare. Shredder watched the scene unfold. Every movement, every line of dialogue, every look matched exactly what he expected. The mixture of confusion and adjustment was natural. The ninja were absorbing the environment slowly, building context through observation, while Clark was cataloging information about them in the same calm, methodical way he did with anyone extraordinary. Martha finished serving the food and sat at the end of the table. So, what are you planning to do now? Kakashi looked thoughtful. First, find a way back. Our home needs us. Clark nodded slowly. If you need help getting anywhere, I can try to make some calls, but I'm not sure who'd know anything about a place called Konoha. Naruto frowned. You've really never heard of it, not even the Fire Country. Clark shook his head. Sorry. Sakura glanced at Kakashi. If we can't sense any chakra around, that means we might not be able to open another portal, right? Kakashi's tone stayed calm. Possibly, but we'll find a way. There's always one. Naruto perked up. Yeah, we'll just figure it out. Sasuke remained silent. His hands rested on the table, his expression unreadable. Clark looked between them again, then smiled faintly. You remind me of some people I know, determined. The dinner went on quietly after that. The rhythm of utensils against plates mixed with the occasional comment from Naruto about how good the food was. Sakura softened a little once she realized the Kents meant no harm. When they were done eating, Clark stood. You're welcome to rest here for the night. We have a spare room. Naruto's eyes widened. Really? You're serious? Clark nodded. You look like you could use sleep. Sakura smiled with quiet relief. Thank you very much. Kakashi inclined his head. We appreciate it. Sasuke said nothing, but his posture eased slightly. Clark turned toward the stairs. I'll show you the room. The four followed him up. Shredder watched from outside, still silent, still unseen. He could feel faint signatures spreading outward from this location, now energy fluctuations that would not go unnoticed for long. Across the planet, certain sensitive instruments and individuals would already be registering it. But for now, the farmhouse remained calm. Clark opened the door to a small spare room. You can stay here. It's not much, but it's clean. Naruto jumped onto one of the beds immediately, testing the softness with a grin. This is great. Sakura frowned. Don't get dirt everywhere. He laughed. It's fine, it's fine. Kakashi took the corner near the window, looking out into the dark field. Sasuke leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his gaze distant. Clark lingered in the doorway for a moment. If you need anything, just ask. Kakashi nodded once. Thank you again. Clark smiled slightly and stepped out, closing the door quietly behind him. The room went still for a while. Naruto lay on the bed with his hands behind his head. What do you think happened, Sensei? Kakashi looked away from the window. We were transporting across realities. The cause was unstable chakra interference. Until we find a point of contact, we're stranded. Sakura folded her hands. But how do we even find that? Kakashi's tone stayed calm. Observation first, action later. Sasuke looked out the window. That man isn't normal. Naruto turned toward him. What do you mean? He hides his strength well, Sasuke said. But I can tell. His energy is there, just different. Kakashi's eye narrowed faintly. I noticed that too. Shredder listened quietly. The conversation matched the prediction he had expected. Outside, the stars brightened over the field. The sound of insects carried faintly through the open window. Shredder looked at the distant horizon. The first faint ripple of another presence brushed against his awareness, something vast, deliberate, and approaching from far away. He remained still, his expression calm. He had already decided not to interfere yet. Inside the house, the light dimmed. The voices of the young ninja grew quiet. The night continued in steady silence, the farm settling under the weight of another world's presence. Chapter 3: The Crossing of Two Worlds. The air changed before anyone heard him. Even standing several fields away from the Kent farmhouse, I felt the shift, a steady, precise pressure in the dark. It wasn't chakra, it wasn't magic. It was something cleaner, purposeful, focused. Batman. I turned toward the source, and sure enough, the faint mechanical hum of his approach cut through the quiet. He didn't move with sound or waste motion. He appeared near the edge of the cornfield, the night covering him like another layer of armor. His expression was the same as always, calm, reading everything. Superman was already waiting by the barn. "You came fast," he said. "I was nearby," Batman replied. His voice was low, flat. "What's the situation?" "They're kids," Superman answered. "Not local. They have energy signatures unlike anything I've seen." "I've seen the readings," Batman said. "You're underselling it. Their presence spiked every sensor from Metropolis to the Watchtower. The readings aren't consistent with any technology or mutation." He stepped past Superman, looking toward the farmhouse. "Where are they?" "Inside, asleep mostly." "Mostly." Superman tilted his head slightly. "The older one's still awake." "That's the teacher," I said quietly, though no one could hear me. "Kakashi Hatake." I watched as Batman and Superman exchanged another glance. They spoke softly, analyzing patterns, cross-checking details. The field light flickered when I moved closer. I didn't bother to hide. I was already invisible to them, but my energy bent the air around me. Watching the two of them side by side, one born of hope, the other of suspicion, felt like studying two halves of the same coin. Inside the farmhouse, Kakashi's chakra flared lightly. The door opened, and he stepped outside. His eye moved over both of them quickly, weighing what he saw. "You're not ordinary people," he said calmly. Batman stopped in front of him. "Neither are you." Kakashi didn't argue. "You came because of the energy disturbance." "Yes." Naruto appeared next, still rubbing his eyes, hair sticking up in every direction. "What's going on?" I heard voices. "Stay inside," Kakashi said. "No way. What if something happens?" Naruto walked up beside him anyway, ignoring the order. Batman's gaze lingered on the boy. His eyes took in every detail, the whisker-like marks, the steady breathing, the posture. "So this is the one," he said to Superman. "The one whose readings are the strongest." Naruto blinked. "What readings?" Superman smiled faintly. "Just something we use to measure energy. Nothing to worry about." "Energy," Naruto said, frowning. "You mean chakra." The word meant nothing to either of them, but Batman stored it away instantly. Kakashi's tone stayed calm. "We don't belong here. That's all you need to know. We'll find a way back." Superman crossed his arms. "If we can help, we will." "You can't," Kakashi said evenly. "Our world isn't accessible through normal means." I listened quietly. The situation had reached the point I wanted. There was no more reason to wait. I raised one hand and opened a portal above the field. The air tore open in perfect silence, expanding until it was large enough to swallow the entire group. The wind whipped outward. Everyone turned as the distortion pulled at them. Naruto shouted first, "Hey, it's happening again." Sakura stumbled out of the doorway, startled. Sasuke was already outside, his sharing and half-activated from reflex. Kakashi tried to stabilize his footing, but the ground beneath them gave way. Superman moved instinctively, reaching for Martha Kent inside the house before realizing the pull wasn't threatening her. The portal focused only on the six of them. Batman's cape flared as he tried to anchor himself, but I made sure the grip was absolute. None of them resisted for long. They vanished into the light. I followed. The pull lasted less than a second. The moment the wind stopped, we stood inside another world entirely. The smell of the air changed first, cleaner, edged with distant smoke and the faint scent of rain. The rooftops of Konoha stretched out below. The Hokage monument loomed overhead, the carved faces lit by morning light. I landed a short distance behind them, invisible once again. Naruto blinked, disoriented, before his eyes widened in recognition. We're home. Sakura gasped and grabbed his arm. Wait, this is really Konoha. Sasuke turned a full circle, scanning the streets, the colors, the distant sounds. His voice was quieter. It's real. Kakashi's eye softened for the first time since they'd arrived in the DC world. We made it back. Batman looked around carefully. He had already memorized the skyline, the symbols, the people moving below. So this is your world, he said. Superman stood beside him, silent for a moment. The density of energy in the air surprised him. Everything here feels alive. Kakashi gave a small nod. Chakra flows through everything here. It's natural. I watched the village breathe again. The streets below were already active, vendors setting up stands, academy students walking to class, patrols passing on rooftops. It looked peaceful, but I knew better. Kakashi adjusted his hit rate. We should report to the Hokage. Sakura straightened immediately. Right. Naruto grinned. Man, the old man's gonna freak out when he sees these two. He pointed toward Batman and Superman. Don't call him old man, Kakashi said. They started down the path toward the Hokage Tower. Batman followed quietly, taking in every corner of the village as they passed. His eyes lingered on the stone faces of the previous Hokage, on the villagers bowing politely to each other, on the shinobi moving across rooftops with speed that defied normal human capability. Superman walked beside him, arms loose at his sides. You thinking what I'm thinking? That this place shouldn't exist, Batman said. And yet it does. They reached the base of the tower. Two Chunin guards stepped forward, then froze when they saw Kakashi. Hatake-san, one said, clearly surprised. You were listed as missing. The Hokage. I'm here to see him now, Kakashi interrupted gently. They nodded quickly and opened the door. Inside, the hall smelled faintly of ink and old paper. The sounds of footsteps echoed lightly on the polished wood. When the office door opened, the third Hokage sat behind his desk, pipe in hand. His face lifted instantly when he saw them. Kakashi, you've returned. Kakashi gave a respectful nod. Yes, Lord Third. The Hokage smiled faintly, relief visible. And these are... His eyes moved towards Superman and Batman. They came from another world, Kakashi said. We owe our return to them. Hiruzen Sarutobi blinked once, then recovered. Another world, you say? I see. His voice softened, almost indulgent. You have been through much. I'm grateful you made it back safely. Naruto stepped forward, grinning widely. Hey, old man, you wouldn't believe what happened. We ended up on some guy's farm. Sakura groaned quietly. Naruto, not now. Hiruzen chuckled. It's good to see your spirit hasn't changed, Naruto. Batman studied the old man quietly, his eyes shifting from the robe to the hat, to the age of the man wearing it. You're their leader. I am, Hiruzen said. Sarutobi Hiruzen, third Hokage of Konoha. Batman didn't bow, he simply looked at him. You send children to fight wars. The Hokage's expression remained calm, though his smile faded. They are ninja. From a young age, they train for this life. I spoke with the boy, Batman said. His tone was level, factual. He told me about your wars, about the will of fire, about how the older generation protects the young, but you're still here alive. The first and second are dead. Your students fought and died. Your village's children go to the front lines. You stayed. The room fell silent. Naruto looked confused. Hey, what's he talking about? Sakura lowered her gaze, uncomfortable. Kakashi said nothing. The Hokage's voice remained gentle. You misunderstand our ways, stranger. The will of fire is not about who lives or dies. It's about words, Batman interrupted. His tone didn't rise, but every syllable landed like weight. You speak of sacrifice while staying behind the walls. You say the old die for the young, but you sit on a throne while sending them to fight. Superman glanced toward him, quiet, but didn't interrupt. Hiruzen's hand tightened around his pipe. I have done what was necessary to preserve the village. Leadership demands. Convenience, Batman said. Kakashi's eye flicked toward him, but he didn't stop him. Naruto looked back and forth between them, unsure what to say. Hey, the old man isn't that bad. Batman turned to him. He's the reason children like you have to grow up faster than they should. Naruto's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Hiruzen's tone lowered slightly. You are not of this world, so you cannot judge it by your standards. I can recognize hypocrisy anywhere, Batman said. The silence that followed felt heavy, but clear. Sakura swallowed hard. Lord Third. Hiruzen exhaled slowly. You see cruelty where there is duty. You don't understand the price of leadership. I do, Batman replied. I just don't hide behind slogans when I make my decisions. Superman's voice broke the stillness. That's enough, Bruce. Batman didn't look at him. His eyes stayed on the Hokage. You wanted the will of fire to mean something real. Make it mean something. Stop sending children to die while you watch from above. The Hokage stood. His age showed when he did, but his voice stayed composed. If you think me a coward, so be it. But this village exists because of those choices. Batman's expression didn't change. Maybe, but it's built on the grave of the young. The tension lingered a moment longer before Hiruzen sat again, his face drawn, silent. Kakashi cleared his throat quietly. We'll take our leave, Lord Third. The Hokage nodded slowly. You may go. Team 7 turned, still uneasy. Naruto's expression was mixed, confused, defensive, uncertain. Sakura followed close behind him, quiet. Sasuke said nothing, his gaze unreadable. Superman gave a small respectful nod to the Hokage before following them out. Batman lingered for one last moment, meeting the old man's eyes again before turning away without another word. Outside, the sunlight had shifted, spreading across the rooftops. Naruto finally spoke. What was that about? Batman didn't answer immediately. He adjusted his gloves slightly, his tone calm. Just asking questions no one else does. Kakashi looked at him, thoughtful but not confrontational. You ask them differently than most. Batman's reply was short. Someone has to. I watched from above the tower as they left the building. The tension hadn't broken, but it had done what I wanted, shifted the atmosphere. The Hokage had been forced to hear his own ideology reflected from someone who didn't live under it. Below, the group moved back toward the village streets. The crowd's noise returned slowly, covering the sound of their conversation. I stayed still, unseen, watching the result of one small push ripple through two worlds. Chapter 4. The Old Shadow. I didn't follow Team 7 when they left the Hokage office. They moved down the hall with Superman and Batman beside them, the floorboards creaking softly under their feet. When the door closed behind them, the sound settled into a long, slow quiet. I stayed where I was, half within the wall, half outside it, letting my sight focus through the wood and stone. The third Hokage's face had changed. The faint, patient smile he'd worn moments ago was gone. His eyes had narrowed slightly, the soft lines of age suddenly heavier. The pipe in his hand rested on the desk, unmoving. He didn't speak at first. He just stared at the door for a long moment. Then, finally, he exhaled through his nose. Bring me one of the ANBU, he said. His tone wasn't loud, but it carried. A second later, the faint rustle of movement came from the far wall. A masked shinobi appeared silently, kneeling in front of the desk. "Yes, Lord Third." "Summon Shimura Danzo," Hiruzen said. "Now." The ANBU vanished without a sound. The office stayed quiet again. The window behind the desk framed the Hokage monument. The faces of his predecessors looked down through the glass. He leaned back in his chair, fingers pressed lightly together, eyes lowered toward the desk. I knew this side of him existed. The old man who smiled for his people was the same one who gave quiet orders in the dark. It wasn't new. He'd done it before, when the Uchiha were still alive, when Root was still considered disbanded, when secrecy kept the village intact. Footsteps approached outside the door. Hiruzen didn't look up. "Enter." The door opened, without hesitation. Danzo Shimura walked in with the same slow, measured pace he always had. His bandaged arm stayed hidden under his cloak, the right side of his face covered in cloth that moved slightly with each breath. "You called for me," he said. His voice was low and even, with no trace of surprise. "Yes," Hiruzen answered. "Sit." Danzo didn't sit. He stood at the center of the room, waiting. "The visitors from another world," Hiruzen began, "cannot be allowed to remain here." Danzo's visible eye narrowed faintly. "Why?" Hiruzen raised his gaze. "They're dangerous, too powerful. If they remain, Konoha's security is at risk." Danzo tilted his head slightly. "You're referring to the two adults, the boy in black and the man in red and blue." "Yes," Hiruzen said. "Them." Danzo's tone stayed calm. "You've already decided on removal." "I have." "I see." Danzo paused. "Before removal, it would be wise to gather intelligence. Their strength, their purpose, their origin. If they can travel between worlds, that alone makes them valuable." "Do what you want with them," Hiruzen said quietly. "I want them dead by tomorrow." Danzo's expression didn't change. "Understood." He turned to leave. The Hokage added, "Make it clean." Danzo gave a small nod and disappeared. The air in the room seemed heavier after he left. Hiruzen leaned back again, his eyes fixed on nothing. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his pipe. I stayed in the shadow of the ceiling, unmoving. Watching the quiet shift from a tired old man to a calculating one never surprised me, but it still carried weight. He'd been challenged in front of his students, his authority questioned by a stranger who didn't kneel. That was enough to provoke the old habits. I smiled slightly. You never learn. Outside the office, the ANBU were already moving. 3 masked figures appeared in the trees near the tower, waiting for Danzo's signal. I followed him as he made his way toward the underground sector beneath the village. The Root base still existed, hidden from everyone who believed it had been disbanded. The air grew colder as he descended. The light flickered faintly across the stone walls. Inside the chamber, rows of masked operatives stood waiting. Their formation was perfect. No sound, no movement. Danzo stopped at the center. 2 targets, he said. Outsiders, unaffiliated with any nation. They are to be eliminated before dawn. No one spoke. Observe before striking. I want information on their abilities. Then act. A chorus of quiet acknowledgements filled the chamber. I leaned against the wall and watched. There was something almost admirable about Danzo's efficiency. He didn't question, he didn't hesitate. Orders came, and the machine began to move. Outside, night had fully settled over Konoha. Superman and Batman were staying at the guest quarters near the village's eastern edge. Kakashi had arranged it himself, leaving the 2 off-world visitors in a secure compound often used for diplomats. Guards patrolled the perimeter at intervals, unaware that the threat would come from within their own ranks. I drifted closer, silent. Through the thin paper walls, I could see them. Superman sat near the window, watching the sky. The faint glow of the moonlight reflected off the S on his chest. Batman was standing near the door, his gauntlet open, a small device resting in his palm. "I assume you heard," Superman said. "I did." Batman's tone didn't change. "Both of them?" "Yes, the old one gave the order. The other's executing it now." Superman looked toward the floor. "How?" Batman held up a small black disc. "Listening beacon. I left it on the Hokage desk when we were in there." Superman's brow tightened slightly. "You expected this?" "I prepare for things like this," Batman said. Superman exhaled slowly. "They're planning to kill us." "Yes." The silence lasted a few seconds before Superman spoke again. "What's the plan?" "We wait," Batman said. "Let them make the first move. Then we respond." Superman didn't argue. He just nodded once. "You think they'll really try?" "They will." Batman's voice was steady. "They're professionals, trained since childhood. They'll come quiet and fast." Superman looked out the window again. "Then I'll try not to break anything." Outside, in the dark alleys of the village, the first route agents were already moving into position. 6 of them approached from the rooftops, 3 from below ground through the tunnel network. From above, I watched their formation unfold with mathematical precision. Danzo's strategy was clean. 2 teams for diversion, 1 for extraction, 1 for elimination. It wouldn't matter. Superman could hear their heartbeats from 3 streets away. Batman already had their approach mapped out through motion sensors in the walls. Inside the room, Batman adjusted his cowl slightly. 4 entering from above, 3 below, 2 behind the outer wall. Superman stood. "Want me to take the roof?" "Take the roof," Batman said. The moment Superman stepped outside, the first ANBU landed on the tiles. They didn't speak. Kunai glinted briefly in their hands. The second they moved, Superman was already there, catching one by the wrist before the blade could descend. The man tried to twist free, but the grip didn't move. Superman's hand stayed closed, unshaken. "Don't do this," Superman said evenly. The ANBU didn't answer. Another came from behind, blade aimed for his neck. Superman turned and caught it between 2 fingers. The metal bent with a faint sound. He pushed both men backward, careful not to break bones, just enough to send them crashing into the wall. Below, Batman was already in motion. He moved through the narrow hallway with precise, controlled strikes. Smoke pellets filled the space, blinding the attackers for half a second. By the time visibility returned, 3 of them were unconscious. The fight ended as quickly as it began. No one died. From the rooftops, I watched as Danzo's backup unit hesitated. Their formation broke. Orders didn't come fast enough to adapt to an enemy they couldn't harm. Batman emerged from the room, cloak settling behind him. His voice carried low across the quiet night. "They're retreating." Superman glanced upward. "Not all of them." He looked toward the tower where Danzo himself was standing, half in shadow, watching the failure unfold. For a long moment, no one moved. I could see the calculation in Danzo's expression, even from this distance. He understood instantly that physical force wouldn't work. These weren't opponents Root could handle. He vanished into the dark without a word. Batman's gaze followed him until he was gone. Then he turned towards Superman. "Now we know who runs the Black Ops here." "Do we handle it?" Superman asked. "Not yet," Batman said. "We see what the Hokage does next." I laughed quietly, the sound swallowed by the wind. Hiruzen would find out soon enough that his order failed. When he did, he'd either double down or try to cover it up. Either way, the tension inside this village was about to change. From above, I could see everything at once. The scattered ANBU regrouping, the route agents disappearing into tunnels, the villagers sleeping peacefully, unaware of what had almost happened. Superman looked up briefly, his eyes narrowing as if he'd heard something far away. I stayed silent, not moving. His hearing brushed close to my position, but I masked the dimensional resonance before he could isolate it. He turned away after a moment, convinced it was nothing. Batman returned to the room. He removed one of his gauntlets, setting it on the table beside the communicator. We'll talk to Kakashi in the morning. He needs to know what kind of government he's working for. Superman sat down again, still watching the sky through the window. You really think they'll try again? They always try again, Batman said quietly. I stayed until the guards began cleaning up the unconscious operatives. Then I moved back toward the Hokage tower. Inside, the office lights were still on. The Hokage was sitting at his desk again, waiting. When Danzo entered, the air between them was cold. It failed, Danzo said. Hiruzen looked up slowly. Explain. They were prepared. The blue one sensed every operative. The other fought with precision beyond our projection. The Hokage's jaw tightened. And the bodies? There are no bodies. Hiruzen's hand trembled slightly. They let them live. Yes, Danzo said. They're efficient but restrained. Hiruzen didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, Leave it. I'll handle it myself. Danzo inclined his head. As you wish. He turned and disappeared once more. When the room was empty, the third Hokage leaned back and closed his eyes. The pipe lay untouched on the desk beside his folded hands. I watched from the ceiling as his breath slowed, his expression unreadable. He knew exactly what kind of mistake he'd made, but he wouldn't say it aloud. Below the village, route agents moved quietly to erase all traces of the failed mission. Above ground, Batman and Superman rested in silence, both aware that Konoha's piece wasn't as clean as it looked. I stayed between both worlds, unseen, waiting to see what would come next. Chapter 5. Truth Beneath the Stone. Morning light reached the eastern quarter of Konoha slowly. Mist still lingered over the rooftops, softening the shapes of the buildings and the outlines of the distant walls. The village seemed calm again, but I could feel the quiet weight beneath it, the kind that sat heavy when people tried not to talk about what they knew. Inside the guest compound, Superman stood near the open window, while Batman packed a small black case on the low wooden table. Neither of them had slept. The failed assassination attempt hung between them like a silent fact that didn't need to be said. When the door opened, it was Hatake Kakashi who stepped inside. He looked like he hadn't slept either, but his tone was steady. You both handled yourselves well last night. The Hokage hasn't spoken about it, which means he's covering it up. Batman looked up. He ordered it. Kakashi didn't deny it. That's likely. Superman turned from the window. Why would he do that? We didn't threaten anyone. Kakashi's visible eye moved slightly. Because that's how the world works here. Every village has secrets. Every leader has something they don't want outsiders to see. Then tell us, Batman said. Kakashi hesitated. His hand brushed against the frame of the door before he walked further into the room. You won't like what you hear. Superman crossed his arms. We need to understand what kind of place we're in. Kakashi nodded once. All right. He sat down across from them. The air in the room stayed still. The morning sounds from outside, merchants opening stalls, children shouting to each other, muted behind the walls. There are 5 great villages, Kakashi began. Konoha is one of them. Each one was built to protect its country's interests. That protection comes through strength, and strength here means shinobi. Every child born with chakra potential is trained early. By the time they're 12, they're expected to fight. Some die before then. It's not questioned. It's the system. Superman's brows drew together. Children fighting wars. Kakashi gave a short nod. Yes, it isn't right or wrong here. It just is. Every village does it. Sand, stone, mist, cloud, none are better. We've all spilled blood. Superman's voice dropped a little. It doesn't have to stay like that. Kakashi looked up at him, curious. This world has potential, Superman said. I can see it everywhere. You have chakra that can shape the ground, control the air, heal wounds, create fire from nothing. You could use it to grow crops, build homes, power cities. You could make life easier instead of harder. Kakashi's expression didn't change. Maybe, but it's never been done. Chakra is trained as a weapon, not a tool. It's how people survive. It's how they're told to survive, Superman said. Batman closed the case he'd been checking. We can debate ethics later. We still have an active threat. Superman turned slightly. We can handle both. Kakashi sighed quietly. The leadership won't change easily. The Third has ruled most of his life. Even when he retires, he controls things through the council, and Danzo handles what he doesn't want public. We noticed, Batman said. Kakashi glanced between them. I'm not sure how far you plan to go, but whatever you're thinking, they'll try to stop you again. Superman's eyes steadied. Then they'll have to try. Batman looked at him once before turning to Kakashi. Where's their main base? Kakashi hesitated again. If you're talking about route, it's beneath the old foundation on the eastern side of the village. It's not on any map. That's fine, Batman said. We don't need maps. Superman nodded. Thank you for telling us. Kakashi stood, pulling his mask up slightly higher. You won't have allies in this. Just remember that. Superman gave a short, sincere nod. We'll handle it. When he left, the door closed quietly behind him. Batman activated the small device on his wrist. A soft blue light projected above it, forming a rotating map of the village's structure. I traced the electrical and magnetic flow beneath the streets last night. There's an area that blocks both readings entirely. That's where route is. Superman glanced over the map. How deep? About 200 feet, Batman said. Multiple chambers, narrow tunnels, minimal ventilation, designed to keep secrets, not sustain life. Sounds like his style, Superman said. They left the compound as the sun began to climb. Villagers moved through the market, carrying baskets, setting up stalls, greeting each other. The two outsiders drew glances, but no one approached them. By now, the rumors had spread that they were foreign warriors brought by Kakashi. At the edge of the eastern district, they stopped before a nondescript stone building with no sign or window. Batman crouched and placed a hand on the wall. Hollow space behind this, 4 meters thick. Superman used his X-ray vision for a second, then frowned. Lead-lined, they knew how to block observation. Batman took a small disc from his belt and pressed it against the base of the wall. A faint pulse of blue ran through the stone. We're in. The wall split silently, sliding aside to reveal a dim corridor that sloped downward. The air inside smelled of metal and earth. They moved without speaking. The corridor opened into a large chamber lined with filing cabinets and reinforced doors. Rows of documents, sealed scrolls, and paper folders filled the room. Batman began scanning the files immediately, eyes moving quickly over each label. He pulled one open. Incident Records, Confidential, Uchiha. He flipped through the pages, reading in silence. Each report listed dates, mission authorizations, casualty counts. The signature at the bottom of each page belonged to Danzo Shimura. He opened another file. Operation Silence, Target, Uchiha Clan, Authorization, Hokage. Superman read over his shoulder. They ordered it. Batman's hand tightened on the folder. He used his Black Ops to exterminate an entire family line. Superman's jaw set. Why? Batman kept reading, claimed it was a rebellion risk, internal control. He closed the folder and opened another. The heading read, Jinchuriki Containment Policy. Inside were pages describing how the orphaned son of the 4th Hokage was kept isolated to maintain public control of the Nine Tails' power. Superman frowned. Naruto. Batman read the notes carefully. Deliberate neglect, controlled emotional development, designed to limit chakra instability and ensure obedience. Superman shook his head slowly. They made his life harder on purpose. Yes, Batman said. They wanted a weapon they could control. He moved on to the next file. Sakumo Hatake, termination by induced public pressure. The words were written in Danzo's hand. Superman looked at him. That's Kakashi's father. They forced him to suicide, Batman said, because he refused to sacrifice comrades for a mission. They destroyed his reputation to make an example. He kept opening file after file. Each one was the same: assassinations, manipulations, secret wars fought for power rather than defense. One report described engineered conflicts between minor nations to raise Konoha's standing. Another listed children sent on missions classified as strategic losses. Superman's voice stayed quiet but firm. This isn't protection, it's control. Batman didn't look up. It's government. He stacked the files neatly. We're ending it. Superman nodded. Let's go. They moved deeper into the base. The corridors widened into a training area, empty now, but still marked with scars from weapons and jutsu. The walls carried faint seals that glowed when Superman passed them. At the far end stood a thick metal door. Batman set a charge, stepped back, and triggered it. The explosion was small and controlled, just enough to break the lock. Inside was a room filled with equipment, medical tables, scrolls, and containment tanks. Some still held residue of what had once been inside. Superman looked at them, expression hard. They used people for experiments. Yes, Batman said. Human enhancement using chakra infusion. Most of them didn't survive. Superman stepped forward, opening one of the scrolls lying on a nearby table. Inside was a record of test subjects, each name crossed out except one. Uchiha Itachi, approved for classified mission. He closed the scroll quietly. This world forces children to become soldiers, then punishes them for following orders. Batman said nothing. He picked up a final folder from the table, flipping it open. Authorization for route, direct under Hokage supervision, permanent secrecy, all actions retroactively justified. Superman looked at him. They knew about all of it. They did, Batman said. Every death, every order. Superman's hands tightened briefly before he exhaled. Then this ends now. They began dismantling the base piece by piece. Batman moved methodically, setting controlled explosives along the walls, each one placed to collapse the tunnels inward without harming the surface. Superman worked faster, melting through the reinforced supports with heat vision and bending steel beams until the structure groaned. When they finished, Batman checked the final detonator. Ready. Superman nodded. Go ahead. The charges ignited one after another, muffled thuds echoing through the ground. The base folded inward, sealing the dark chambers and every document they couldn't carry. Dust filled the air, rising through cracks in the street above. When the last sound faded, only the faint rumble of settling stone remained. They stood on the edge of the crater that had once been Root's main hub. Batman adjusted the belt at his waist. They'll notice soon. They'll know who did it, Superman said. They'll guess, Batman replied. That's enough. Superman looked back toward the village. Children were walking across the bridge to the academy, laughing. They deserve better than this. They do, Batman said, but you can't fix everything overnight. Superman's expression stayed firm. Then I'll start with this. No more children fighting wars. Batman didn't argue. He looked down at the ground where the tunnels had been. We've seen what their leaders are willing to do. If we leave it alone, they'll rebuild it. Then we don't leave, Superman said. For a while, they stood in silence. Smoke rose faintly from the crater's edge. The village around them continued as if nothing had happened. I watched from a nearby rooftop, arms crossed. The air carried the smell of burned stone and metal. I could see the determination in both of them, Superman's quiet resolve and Batman's controlled calculation. They had seen enough. In one night, the oldest secret of Konoha had been buried under its own foundations. Chapter 6. The Papers of Truth. The night in Konoha was still. The torches along the main street burned low, and most of the village slept without knowing how different their world would look by morning. Inside a small printing building near the academy, a steady rhythm filled the dark, metal plates striking paper, rollers turning, ink spreading. The sound was clean and fast, unbroken. Batman stood beside the machine, sleeves rolled back to his forearms, a faint smear of ink on his gloves. The old press was built for simple handbills, but under his direction it ran with mechanical precision. He had adjusted the feed gears and replaced the old plates with new ones etched from the files he and Superman had found beneath the root base. Every sheet carried the same header in plain black letters: Public Record, Internal Orders of the Hokage and Root Division. Underneath were the copied pages, mission authorizations, lists of names, casualty reports. Everything signed, sealed, and recorded. He stacked the papers on the floor in neat bundles. The air smelled like hot ink and iron. Superman stood outside the building, his red cape catching the faint breeze. Through the open doorway, he watched the work continue. How many so far? 2,000, Batman said without looking up. It's enough. Superman nodded once. You really think they'll read them? They'll read, Batman said. People always read what they're not supposed to see. He pulled another stack from the press and set it aside. When the last sheet came through, he shut the machine down. The room went quiet except for the low crack of cooling metal. Superman stepped inside. He gathered the bundles easily, each one under an arm. Ready. Spread them evenly, Batman said. Main Street, Academy District, the markets, the gates. Make sure every household sees at least one by dawn. Superman nodded. Consider it done. He lifted off without sound, passing over the rooftops. From above, the village was a patchwork of lights and shadows. As he flew, he loosened the ties on each bundle and let the papers scatter into the air. They fanned out in long streams, catching the moonlight before settling across rooftops, streets, and courtyards. Below, guards on the walls looked up, startled. By the time they reacted, hundreds of pages were already drifting down like snow. Batman watched from the tower roof, his expression unreadable. He saw the first villager step outside, a man in a night robe, rubbing his eyes. The man picked up a paper from the ground, frowned, and began to read. Within minutes more came out. The quiet turned into murmurs, then into raised voices. Windows opened. Lights flared across the streets. By dawn, the entire village was awake. An hour later, the Hokage Tower was surrounded. Chunin and Jonin gathered in groups, each holding a sheet. Some spoke quietly, others shouted. The words Root, Uchiha, and orders spread from mouth to mouth. Inside his office, the third Hokage sat rigid in his chair, several pages laid out before him. His face was pale under the morning light. Who did this? He asked quietly. No one answered. By the time the ANBU began trying to collect the papers, it was too late. Copies had already left the village with traders heading to the smaller countries. Superman returned to the outskirts where Batman waited. It's done, he said. They're awake now. Batman adjusted the scanner on his wrist. We move before they organize a response. Where? The smaller villages first, Batman said. Grass, rain, waterfall. They have weak leadership and unstable rule. Easier to start change there. Superman gave a brief nod. Let's go. They left before the sun reached its full height. The flight across the land of fire was fast. Superman carried Batman to conserve time. The two of them stayed above the cloud line where no eyes could follow. Below, forests and rivers stretched endlessly. Their first destination was the hidden grass. When they landed outside the small walled settlement, the guards reacted immediately, 3 Jonin raising weapons, shouting orders. Superman stood calmly, hands at his sides. We're not enemies, he said. Batman stepped forward, his tone flat. We're here for your leader. The guards hesitated at the calmness in his voice. Within minutes, the grass village head arrived, a short man in dark green robes. He looked nervous, but pride kept his back straight. State your business. Batman held up one of the printed pages. You know this symbol. The man nodded cautiously. The leaf seal. They've used it to justify murder and control, Batman said. Your own trade routes suffer because of their secret wars. You follow the same system. That ends today. The man frowned. You have no authority here. Superman took a step forward. His voice stayed calm, but it carried weight. He's not asking for authority. He's telling you it's time for people to decide who leads them. The grass leader hesitated under the steady gaze. Behind him, his own guards looked unsure. Batman placed a small tablet on the ground. On its screen appeared a simple layout: names, positions, blank boxes. An election system. You hold one every term. If the people don't want you, they choose another. The leader looked down at it. And if they choose wrong, then they fix it next time, Batman said. That's how it works. Superman folded his arms. It gives them control instead of fear. The man looked between them, then finally nodded. I'll call the council. Within hours, the announcement spread. The first open election in Grass Village history will be held that week. By evening, they had moved on. The next was the hidden rain. The air was damp, the streets narrow and filled with pipes. Armed patrols watched from every bridge. When Batman and Superman appeared, no one dared attack. They simply froze. Their leader, a weary middle-aged man under a thick cloak, met them in the old tower. He tried to posture, but Superman's presence made argument impossible. Batman laid another copy of the Konoha papers on the desk. Every hidden village runs on the same logic. You follow stronger nations and destroy yourselves in their wars. That stops here. Hold an election. Give your people a voice. The man stared at the papers for a long time before nodding. If that's what it takes to stop the fighting, fine. They left him staring at the documents, silent. From there they went to the hidden waterfall. This one required no confrontation. Once the local elders saw Superman lift half a collapsed dam into place with his bare hands, they agreed to the changes without argument. Batman organized the first council vote, writing the structure himself with clear, simple language. By the time night fell again, the system had spread across the smaller nations. Each village now had the blueprint for its own leadership rotation and public accountability. They rested briefly near the coastline, a quiet area between cliffs. The sound of waves filled the air. Superman sat on a boulder, looking toward the horizon. It's working faster than I thought. Batman checked a small handheld monitor displaying transmissions from hidden sensors he'd placed in each village. People adapt when given a choice. Whether they keep it is up to them. Superman looked at him. You sound like you've seen this before. I have, Batman said. Different world, same flaws. Superman nodded slightly. At least it's a start. He turned his head toward the sea. Next is the mist. Batman closed the device. Reports say they're dealing with a monster, the Three Tails. We'll arrive ready. Superman stood. Then we don't wait. He lifted into the air, the wind scattering sand from the cliff's edge. Batman followed by grappling line to Superman's hand, and together they rose above the ocean, heading east toward the land of water. The flight was long but quiet. From above, they could see small islands scattered like stones across the surface of the sea. Smoke rose from one of them, thick, gray, twisting upward. That's it, Batman said. Superman adjusted his flight path. We're going in. As they approached, explosions echoed from the shoreline. Large waves crashed against the rocks. Shinobi in gray uniforms were fighting a massive creature that moved through the water like a living mountain. Its shell glistened, its tails cutting through the waves. The Three Tails, Batman confirmed, scanning the energy signature. Superman didn't wait. He descended fast, hitting the water hard enough to send a wall of spray across the coast. The shinobi looked up, startled, as he flew straight toward the beast. The creature roared, the sound shaking the cliffs. It swung one of its tails, striking the surface with enough force to split the water. Superman met the strike with his forearms, pushing against it until the momentum stopped. He grabbed the tail and twisted, lifting the entire creature partly from the sea. The water churned violently, but the movement slowed. The three tails tried again, mouth opening to fire a dense sphere of chakra. Superman struck first, driving his fist into the water beneath its jaw. The sphere collapsed before forming, and the beast fell backward into the sea, stunned. The waves calmed. On the shore, the mist shinobi lowered their weapons, still staring. A woman stepped forward from the group. Her red hair was tied loosely, her blue eyes sharp but calm. "That was efficient," she said. Superman landed on the sand, dripping water from his gloves. "Is everyone safe?" She nodded once. "No casualties." Batman appeared beside him, stepping down from a cliff path. "We're here to talk, not interfere, but the threat's contained." The woman studied both of them carefully. "I'm May Terumi, acting leader of this village." Superman offered a small nod. "Clark, this is Bruce." She tilted her head. "Those aren't shinobi names." "They aren't shinobi," Batman said. "We're from another world." May crossed her arms lightly. "Another world, yet you fight our monsters. Why?" "Because people shouldn't have to die when they don't have to," Superman said simply. She looked at him a moment longer before nodding. "We're trying to change things here too. The mist used to be a place of blood. Children fought each other to graduate. That ended with the last Mizukage. I'm trying to rebuild, slowly." Superman smiled faintly. "You're already ahead of most." May's expression softened. "Change isn't easy here. The old ways linger." Batman spoke next, tone calm. "Then give your people the right to choose who leads them. Elections, leadership by decision, not inheritance." May looked thoughtful. "We've never had anything like that." "Start now," Batman said. "It's not perfect, but it's better than rule by fear." She gave a small, firm nod. "I'll consider it." Superman looked toward the horizon where the sun was setting. "You'll make it work." May turned back to her people, already calling orders to secure the coastline. Batman glanced at Superman. "One more village started." Superman nodded, "And many more to go." I watched them from above, the ocean wind tugging at my cloak. The two worlds were starting to move in rhythm. Every decision, every word, every action pushed this land closer to something it had never tried before. The mist was quiet now. For the first time in years, no blood mixed with the sea. Chapter 7, The Bridge of Thunder. The morning air over the land of lightning was sharp and cool. Mountains cut across the horizon, and clouds hung low, rolling against the high ridges. Wind carried the sound of distant waterfalls. Superman and Batman stood on the main path that wound toward Kumagakure. The village sat high in the peaks, built into cliffs and anchored with metal cables that glinted in the sunlight. "We're almost there," Superman said, watching the mist rise below them. Batman adjusted the scanner on his gauntlet. "Security posts every 200 meters. They've already seen us." Superman gave a short nod. "They'll want to meet us before we get close." Two cloud shinobi appeared ahead on the path. Their headbands bore the symbol of lightning. One raised his hand. "State your purpose." Superman stopped. "We're here to speak with your Hokage." The guards looked at each other before one replied. "He already knows you're coming. Follow us." They moved quickly through the winding paths. The wind picked up around them, carrying faint sparks from the distant power lines that stretched across the cliffs. When they reached the main gate, armored guards stepped aside without hesitation. Inside, Kumagakure was louder than any other village they had seen. Training grounds echoed with shouts. The clang of metal rang from the blacksmiths. The people moved with confidence and speed, the air filled with the charge of energy and motion. Superman's eyes tracked the movements of the shinobi on the roofs. "They're organized." "They value strength," Batman said. The escort led them into a tall building near the center. Inside, the Hokage waited. His frame filled the space behind his desk, arms crossed, muscles tense, eyes focused. "So you're the ones who have been changing the world," he said, voice deep and steady. Superman nodded politely. "We don't want to change it for you. We're showing what can work better." The Rakage leaned back slightly. "Elections, that's the word spreading from the smaller nations. Let the people choose their leaders." Batman's tone stayed calm. "It creates accountability. It stops corruption before it grows." The Rakige's expression didn't change. "In this village, power decides leadership. The strongest leads. If someone wants the seat, they take it in combat. Our people respect that. Strength keeps us united." Superman nodded once. "Then you already have the foundation. Replace combat with popularity. Let them choose strength by vote. You'll still have the strongest at the top, but they'll rise with support instead of fear." The Rakage thought for a moment, tapping his fingers lightly against his arm. "So we replace battle with trust." "It's not weakness," Batman said. "It's control." The Rakage gave a short laugh. "Control through choice. Not bad." He stood, towering over both of them. "We'll try it. The people will like it. Around here, strength is popularity anyway." Superman smiled slightly. "That's all we ask." The Rakage extended his hand. Superman shook it firmly. "Good," the Rakage said. "We'll make the announcement tomorrow." They left the building under clear skies. The wind at that height carried electricity, brushing against the metal cables stretched across the cliffs. Batman stopped to adjust the communicator in his cowl. That was easy. "Because it made sense to him," Superman said. "They respect structure." They were about to step onto the next ridge when the air above them warped. Light bent inward, forming a bright oval that spun faster and faster until a full circle appeared. Batman raised his arm, scanning it. Same signature as before, dimensional portal. Superman looked up. "It's stable this time." The wind pulled at their clothes as the center of the portal cleared to reveal a faint view of the watchtower, their own base orbiting Earth. Superman's voice dropped slightly. "We can reach home." Batman nodded. "Let's go." They stepped through together. The light changed instantly. Metal walls replaced stone and sky. The soft hum of machinery filled the air. They were standing in the central command bay of the watchtower. Flash appeared first, skidding to a stop. "You guys were gone for weeks. What's going on?" Jayon said he couldn't track you anywhere. Superman smiled faintly. "We had work to do." Batman was already walking toward the console. "We need the others, now." Flash tapped his communicator. "Everyone to command. Priority 1." Within minutes, Wonder Woman arrived, followed by 3 Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan, John Stewart, and Guy Gardner. The last to enter was Zatanna, gloves already glowing faintly with spell energy. Wonder Woman crossed her arms. "You look like you've been through a war." "Not ours," Superman said. "Another world S." Batman began loading the files from his belt onto the main display. Images appeared, maps of the elemental nations, photos of the villages, chakra readings, and short clips from the files they'd uncovered. "This world runs on energy called chakra," Batman explained. 5 major powers, each governed by a single ruler with no checks. Children trained as soldiers from age 12. Endless wars. Hal Jordan whistled quietly. "Sounds like a mess." Superman looked at him. "It was. We started helping them rebuild, showed them a system that keeps leaders accountable." Guy Gardner grinned. "You started elections in a ninja world." "They responded better than expected," Superman said. "But if we want lasting peace, we need a permanent connection. Travel between our worlds can't depend on random portals." Zatanna stepped forward. "You need me for stabilization." Batman nodded. "The energy signature repeats every time. It can be anchored with the right spell structure." Zatanna looked thoughtful. "If I combine dimensional resonance with your technology, I can make the portal permanent, but it'll need a constant power source." Superman said, "We'll use solar transfer. Direct feed from my reserves. She nodded. That'll work. Wonder Woman looked at them. You're building a bridge between worlds. Batman adjusted the terminal. That's the idea. Cooperation works better when we can actually reach them. The lanterns exchanged looks. John Stewart stepped forward. You're sure this won't destabilize the barrier? Batman typed a final sequence, not with proper balance. Zatanna positioned herself before the existing rift. The air shimmered again, forming a faint outline. Her hands moved through the gestures quickly, the sound of whispered incantations mixing with the hum of the machine. Blue light traced along the edges, solidifying into a full circular frame. Energy flux at 92%, Batman reported. Superman stepped forward, placing his palm against the power conduit. The light intensified, steady and bright. Transfer starting. The circle stopped flickering. The view beyond cleared, showing the land of lightning, still visible through the other side. The wind of both worlds brushed against each other for the first time without distortion. Zatanna exhaled slowly. It's done, stable, you can move freely now. Flash grinned, so we can just walk through. Yes, Batman said, but stay cautious. The atmosphere there carries chakra, it reacts to emotions. Hal Jordan smirked. You saying I should stay calm? Good luck with that. Superman looked at him, smiling slightly. You'll manage. Wonder Woman stepped closer to the portal, her expression serious. If you're planning to expand this project, you'll need representation from their world too, someone they trust. They have candidates, Superman said. We've met people capable of leadership. They're starting to change their system. Batman closed the data panel. We'll introduce the idea formally when we return. The lanterns exchanged another glance. John Stewart finally nodded. All right, let's see this place. Superman stepped through first, the light wrapping around him. On the other side, the wind from the cloud village hit his face again. He turned and watched as the others followed. Batman, Wonder Woman, the three lanterns, Flash, and Zatanna. The cloud shinobi at the gate dropped their weapons in shock as the figures emerged from the air one by one. The Hokage himself appeared moments later, his footsteps loud on the stone path. He looked up at the glowing portal that hovered in the sky above his village. What is that? Superman faced him calmly. A doorway. Our worlds are connected now. No more barriers. The Hokage studied the circle for a moment, then nodded once. Then let's see what comes of it. Batman checked the readings on his wrist. Stable crossflow confirmed. Temporal sync holding. Good work, Zatanna. Zatanna smiled faintly. You're welcome. The rest of the Justice League spread out briefly, taking in the landscape. Flash ran to the edge of a cliff and looked down at the valleys. This place is wild, all mountains and lightning. Hal Jordan hovered nearby, and they actually live up here. Yes, Superman said, they thrive here. The Hokage looked at the group again. If this is a new age, then let's make sure it doesn't bring more war. Superman met his gaze. That's the plan. The clouds shifted overhead, sunlight breaking through for the first time that day. The light reflected off the portal, casting both worlds in the same pale glow. Batman recorded the data quietly while the others watched. Everything was ready for the next phase, introducing the idea of cooperation, not dominance. The portal hummed softly, steady and strong, linking the two skies together. Chapter 8. The first five-kage summit. A week had passed since the portal between the two worlds became permanent. In that time, the elemental nations had changed more than they had in centuries. The wars stopped. The borders opened. Trade began between villages that had never trusted each other. It was morning now, a bright, clear day above the newly built summit hall located in a neutral valley between the land of iron and the land of fire. Guards from all 5 villages stood outside, watching each other carefully but not with hostility. Inside the main chamber, a long circular table stood ready. At its center, the new symbol of peace had been carved, a ring enclosing 5 smaller emblems, one for each hidden village. Superman and Batman stood near the far end, silent observers. Behind them, Flash and Wonder Woman had come as witnesses for their world. The doors opened one after another. Sunaid was the first to enter, wearing her usual green jacket, hair tied back neatly. Her eyes moved across the room, stopping briefly on Superman before she nodded slightly. Guess this is what a new era looks like. From the opposite side came the Hokage, his arms crossed as always. About time we did this properly. His tone was direct, impatient but not angry. Onoki floated in next, his small frame steady above the floor. I've seen too many peace talks end in shouting. Let's make this one worth it. Mei Terumi followed, calm and composed, her expression pleasant. Agreed. It's nice to meet under something other than smoke and fire for once. Last to arrive was the fourth Hokage, Rasa, his cloak trailing behind him. He gave a brief nod to the others. Suna is ready to cooperate. The final chair remained empty for a moment before 6 black rods lifted from the floor, and the tall, calm figure of Pain walked forward. His expression didn't change. Akatsuki will attend as promised. Sunade's brow tensed slightly, but she didn't object. The world had changed too quickly to cling to old grudges. Pain took his seat, without a word. Superman stepped forward. Thank you for coming. This meeting is the first time every major village sits together without a weapon drawn. That alone is progress. The cage listened silently. Batman activated the small console on the table. A holographic map of the world appeared, showing all major villages and borders now linked by trade routes and communication lines. You've all signed the ceasefire, Batman said. This summit will establish how to keep it. Tsunade leaned forward. We've already disbanded several war divisions in Konoha. The academy will now teach chakra engineering alongside jutsu. That was Superman's suggestion. May nodded slightly. The mist is following similar changes. Chakra can power turbines, water filters, and irrigation. It's faster than anything we've used before. Onoki smiled faintly. I never thought I'd see chakra used for something other than destruction. The Rake's deep voice broke in. Don't get sentimental. Strength keeps order. But fine, if strength builds instead of kills, I'll accept that. Rasa adjusted his cloak. Suna is rebuilding its economy through open trade. The wind daimyo supports it. Pain raised his head slightly. Peace is stability. Akatsuki's resources now go to protection, not control. The room went quiet for a moment. Even Tsunade didn't speak. Superman nodded. That's what this meeting is about. Protection through cooperation. Each village remains independent, but together you'll form a council. When one is attacked, all respond. Not through vengeance, but defense. The Hokage grunted. A joint defense pact. Yes, Superman said. You'll still lead your people, but no more hidden wars. Onoki chuckled. If only someone said that 50 years ago. Batman's gaze moved across the table. You'll need oversight, transparency. I'll help you set up shared record systems and neutral archives. Information keeps peace honest. Tsunade nodded. Konoha can supply the base. May leaned forward slightly. And the mist will handle communications. We already have chakra lines through the ocean. The Hokage gave a firm nod. Good, we'll handle military readiness. No one attacks this alliance without consequence. Rasa folded his arms. Sand will monitor trade and resource fairness. That was our problem last time. Pain spoke again, calm as ever. Akatsuki will remain mobile. We can respond where others cannot, under shared command. Batman looked at him carefully, but Superman gave a small nod. That's acceptable. Everyone works toward the same goal now. As the details formed, a quiet sense of order began to settle over the table. For the first time, the 5-kage, 6 counting Pain, spoke without shouting, without accusation. Outside, guards listened from a distance, aware that the air itself seemed lighter. Then Superman turned toward Batman. Tell them about what you found. Batman opened a new file on the console. The image of a dark, shifting shape appeared, a black figure twisted in shadow. Black Zetsu, he said. An ancient being, the true manipulator behind most of your wars. It used both Madara and the Akatsuki for its own goals. The cage watched closely. Batman continued. It isn't a man. It's a fragment of something older, something that rewrote history to revive its master. We captured it 3 days ago. May frowned. Where is it now? In containment under the watchtower, Batman said. We confirmed it can't influence anyone anymore. Payne nodded slowly. That explains the missing link in our records. Its influence was invisible but constant. Superman added, with it gone, this world can choose its own direction. No more unseen manipulation. Onoki floated back slightly, muttering, maybe peace has a chance after all. The meeting paused there for a break. Servants brought tea and water, and the leaders stepped aside to speak privately. Superman moved to the balcony overlooking the valley. The mountains below were quiet. Batman joined him, setting his gloves on the railing. Everything's holding, Batman said. For now. It'll last, Superman replied calmly. They've seen what destruction costs. They want better. Batman didn't argue. He simply nodded once. From the other side of the hall, Tsunade and Payne stood near the same balcony, speaking quietly. You still don't trust me, Payne said. You destroyed villages, Tsunade answered. Trust isn't easy. I wanted peace, he said. Then earn it now, she replied. He inclined his head. That's why I joined him. 4 days earlier. Rain fell steadily over Aimgakure. The sky was dark, the streets below slick with water. Superman landed on the tower's highest platform, rain sliding off his shoulders. Payne waited there, his eyes still and unreadable. You're the one changing the world, Payne said. Superman nodded. We're helping them rebuild. Payne studied him. You stopped wars in a week. That's faster than any god ever claimed. I'm not a god, Superman said quietly. Just someone who refuses to watch people suffer when it can be stopped. Payne's gaze didn't waver. You believe peace can come without pain. I believe peace can come with effort, Superman replied. For a long time, neither moved. Then Payne said, Akatsuki was created to end conflict. We lost our path. If your way works, we'll join you. Superman extended his hand. Payne looked at it for a moment before shaking it once. That same day, Conan met Batman in the rain. She handed him old records from AIM, notes about chakra imbalance, early wars, and the origins of Akatsuki. We could help you map the network, she said simply. Within hours, every member of Akatsuki still alive had agreed to stand down and rejoin their villages under the new alliance. Even Kisame and Deidara followed Payne's command without resistance. Peace moved faster after that. Back in Konoha, Batman's investigation continued. Using Root's remaining archives and data from the League's technology, he traced Black Zetsu's influence through generations of conflict. Hidden signatures appeared in each war record, patterns no human could have maintained. It took him 2 days to locate the entity. He and Wonder Woman captured it beneath the Valley of the End, trapped in a half-dormant state. When it tried to escape, Batman sealed it with specialized containment energy. Who created you? He had asked. The creature's voice was distorted. I am the will of Kaguya. Not anymore, Batman said, locking the cell. By the next morning, the news spread. The wars had been puppeteered by something not human. The revelation united the world faster than any treaty could have. Now, back at the summit, Kakashi entered the hall quietly, not as a cage, but as a representative. Obito walked beside him, his expression calm for once. The others noticed the unusual pair, but said nothing. Tsunade spoke first. Kakashi, Obito, you're both here for Konoha's record review. Yes, Kakashi said, and for something else. Obito stepped forward. We've resolved our differences. The past can't be changed, but we can fix what comes next. Tsunade gave a short nod. That's good to hear. Superman smiled faintly. Every reconciliation matters. Obito glanced at Pain, who gave him a small, silent nod. They both understood what had changed. The final stage of the summit began. Each leader signed the Peace Accord of Nations, a document drafted jointly by Superman and Batman. The agreement established open borders, shared research, and a cooperative defense. When Tsunade finished signing, she looked at Superman. You move fast. He smiled slightly. That's the only way peace keeps up with war. The Hokage added his signature next. Then let's see if it holds. One by one, the others followed. When the last name was written, the room filled with quiet relief. Outside, hundreds of shinobi from every nation waited. When the doors opened and the 6 leaders stepped out together, the crowd fell silent before breaking into cheers that echoed across the valley. Superman stood behind them, the sun bright on his shoulders. Batman watched the crowd carefully, making sure no hidden threats moved among them. For the first time in living memory, the shinobi world was united. Chapter 9. The Bridge Between Worlds. The morning after the summit, the air around the valley was still. The peace agreements had already been sent to each nation, sealed and delivered by trusted messengers. Villagers across the continents woke to the sound of markets opening instead of alarm bells. At the edge of the same valley, the permanent portal shimmered faintly, stable, calm, and bright against the sunlight. Superman stood in front of it with Batman beside him. The two had spent most of the night making sure the dimensional frequency hadn't changed. Tsunade arrived first. She wore her usual robe, a bottle of sake tucked under one arm though she hadn't opened it. Behind her walked Kakashi, still quiet but observant, and Naruto, who had insisted on coming when he learned they were visiting Superman's world. Sakura followed reluctantly, and Sasuke stood at the back, his expression calm but watchful. From the other nations came their representatives, Gaara from the sand, Darui from the cloud, Chijuro from the mist, and Kuretsuchi from the stone. Pain and Conan appeared last, silent but composed. Superman looked over them briefly. You're all ready. Naruto grinned. You bet I am. We're going to see your world, right? Yes, Superman said. We'll start with the watchtower. It's our base in orbit. Sakura blinked. Orbit, you mean in space? Superman smiled slightly. That's right. Kakashi gave a lazy nod. Sounds like a good learning experience. Batman checked the readings on his wrist. Everything's clear. Once we go through, stay close. Gravity shifts slightly between dimensions. Tsunade crossed her arms. You better bring everyone back in one piece. Superman nodded. Of course. They stepped forward together. The air rippled as the group entered the portal, and light surrounded them. For a few seconds, everything was weightless. The feeling passed quickly as solid ground returned under their feet. When the light faded, they stood inside a wide chamber made of steel and glass. The ceiling arched high above, showing a view of deep space beyond the transparent panels. Earth floated in the distance, blue and bright. Naruto's jaw dropped. Whoa. Sakura stepped forward slowly, eyes wide. We're really in space. Gaara stood quietly beside her, his calm voice carrying easily. Incredible. Tsunade looked around the clean metallic halls. So this is the watchtower. Superman nodded. Welcome to the Justice League's headquarters. Batman tapped his communicator. We're here. A few seconds later, doors slid open and the rest of the League entered. Wonder Woman led the group, followed by Flash, Green Lantern's Hal and John, and Zatanna. Wonder Woman smiled at the sight of the visitors. These must be the shinobi we've heard about. Superman nodded. Leaders and students from their world. Flash grinned. Hey, nice outfits. You all actually wear those every day. Naruto laughed. Yeah, why, what do you wear? Mostly red spandex, Batman said dryly. Flash shrugged. It works. Sasuke looked around at the large room, his eyes shifting to every exit and control panel. So this place floats above your world. Yes, Batman said. It's a defense and observation center. Monitors cover the entire planet. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Efficient. Tsunade stepped forward. Impressive technology. No chakra. Superman shook his head. No chakra. Everything here runs on power from Earth's sun and energy reactors. May walked up to one of the large windows, staring at the Earth below. So that's your home. It looks peaceful from here. Wonder Woman smiled faintly. It often is, but peace takes work there too. Payne stood apart from the group, looking through another window. His voice was even. Your world achieved order through unity, not power. Batman glanced at him. Both. Naruto was still walking from one corner of the room to another, trying to see everything. Man, you can see the whole planet from up here. This is amazing. Flash appeared beside him, already grinning. First time off your planet. Yeah, Naruto said excitedly. You guys really live like this. Mostly, Flash replied. Except when we're on missions. Gaara turned towards Superman. You said this place monitors your world. Could it monitor ours too? It can, Superman said. We're already adjusting sensors to detect chakra. Batman's working on translation systems for communication. Kakashi gave a short nod. Then it'll be easier to coordinate between us. Tsunade studied the main console. Your systems are faster than anything we have. If we had access to this kind of monitoring, no one could ever surprise us. Batman tapped a few commands on the control panel, and a projection appeared, an image of their own world's continents in full color. You'll have shared access soon, he said. The data will help you manage weather patterns, disasters, and security. Sakura's eyes widened. You can control the weather. Predict and redirect, Superman corrected. Not control. Naruto pressed his face close to one of the windows again. Can I fly out there? No, Batman said immediately. Flash laughed. Don't take it personally, kid. Naruto grinned. One day I'll learn to fly too. Tsunade gave him a tired look. Please don't. The League guided the group through the watchtower slowly. Every section showed something new. Medical bays filled with clean white light, training areas where Wonder Woman demonstrated combat programs, and the observation deck with holographic star maps. When they reached the communications room, Hal Jordan leaned against the console. So, you all run villages, right? How does that work? Rakage, who had joined late, folded his arms. Through strength, until now. Hal raised an eyebrow. Now through votes, huh? Yes, I said. Same result, different method. Flash whispered to Superman, I like this guy. Superman smiled faintly. Gaara was studying the holographic Earth again. Your people live without chakra, but still build all this. It's remarkable. Batman's tone stayed calm. Ingenuity compensates for what we don't have. Kakashi gave a small nod. Same principle as a ninja, without a clan technique. John Stewart crossed his arms. That's not a bad comparison. Payne walked to the center of the room, looking at the rotating model of Earth. Your world is fragile too, yet you protect it. I see why Superman wanted peace for ours. Superman looked at him. Every world deserves peace. The tour lasted another hour. Each member of the League took time to explain their roles. Wonder Woman spoke about diplomacy, Flash about rescue operations, and the Lanterns about galactic defense. When they reached the dining area, Naruto was the first to grab food. You have ramen here. Flash laughed. We've got everything. Sakura sighed. You'll eat anywhere, won't you? Of course, Naruto said with a grin. This is space ramen. Even Batman allowed a small glance of amusement before returning to his notes. At one table, Tsunade sat with Wonder Woman discussing healing techniques. So you rely on advanced machines instead of chakra? Tsunade asked. Wonder Woman nodded. Medicine and magic together, but no energy like yours. Your method heals faster. I could share medical scrolls, Tsunade offered. Our systems might complement each other. That would be welcome, Wonder Woman said sincerely. Near the viewing platform, Gara spoke with John Stewart about protection. In your world, Gara said quietly, you defend a whole planet. I only protect my village. John shook his head. Doesn't matter how big or small, you protect what's yours, that's what counts. Gara nodded. Then I understand. Batman joined Superman near the main console. The readings are stable. The chakra balance hasn't disrupted any of our systems. Superman folded his arms. Good, we can maintain the portal without issues. Zatanna walked up beside them. As long as no one interferes with the anchor points, it should last indefinitely. Naruto appeared behind them. Hey, what if people from your world want to visit ours? Superman looked at him. They'll have to follow the same rules. No interference without permission. Naruto smiled. Fair enough. Sasuke, who had been silent most of the time, finally spoke. I see how you keep peace here. Everyone has a defined role. Batman nodded. Responsibility keeps balance. Sasuke crossed his arms. Our world could use more of that. The group spent the rest of the day observing, learning, and comparing notes. Pain studied the star maps, fascinated by the scale of other worlds. Kakashi analyzed their combat simulations. Tsunade and Mei discussed energy transfer with Zatanna and the lanterns. As evening approached, Earth's light dimmed outside the windows. The stars brightened. Superman stood before the gathered group. We've shown you what our world looks like. Now you know what's possible when nations work together. Tsunade nodded slowly. We understand. This visit was worth it. Naruto grinned. Best field trip ever. Sakura shook her head. You say that every time something new happens. Gara stepped forward. When the alliance is fully stable, we'll send teams to coordinate with you. Agreed, Superman said. Batman activated the transport console. The portal is ready. We'll send you back. As the group gathered near the glowing circle, Flash waved. Next time I'm visiting your place. I've never seen chakra before. You'll see plenty, Kakashi said calmly. Flash smiled, looking forward to it. Superman gave a final nod. Thank you for coming. One by one, the shinobi stepped through the portal, first Gara, then Tsunade, then Naruto and his team. Pain and Conan followed last, silent as always. When the light faded, the watchtower grew quiet again. Batman turned to Superman. They're learning fast. They always have, Superman said. Wonder Woman watched the portal stabilize again. You think this peace will last? Superman looked out the window toward the distant Earth. It will, if we keep building it. The portal pulsed once, then steadied. Both worlds remained connected, and the exchange between them had finally begun. Chapter 10. The Titans on the Tower. The watchtower floated quietly above Earth. The wide span of space around it was calm, its lights faint against the black. Inside, most of the League rested after long hours managing the portal link to the ninja world. The system readings had stabilized, and every monitor showed clear skies. I stood in the shadows of a service corridor, cloaked and unseen. My presence didn't register on their sensors. The metal panels felt cool under my boots as I watched from the darkness. The hum of the tower was steady, the vibration of orbit constant underfoot. Then it came, the same sharp, mechanical tone that only I could hear. System notification, achievement complete, creation of the ninja world acknowledged. Reward, permanent 50% increase to physical and energy capacity. The words flashed clear in my vision. The surge followed instantly, filling me like a wave of energy spreading through each nerve and fiber. I clenched my hand once. The strength felt cleaner than before, refined. The increase wasn't violent. It was controlled, like drawing breath after holding it for too long. A moment later, another notification appeared. New directive: create monsterverse. Reward pending. I stayed silent, eyes narrowing slightly. Monsterverse. That meant the world of titans, the earth that hid beasts the size of cities beneath its crust. The system wanted a new creation, a new addition to the growing network of worlds. I smiled slightly. Fine. I raised my hand, letting thin lines of energy gather in my palm. The air bent faintly. A lightless sphere formed at the center, growing until it reflected the stars from outside the tower. The system displayed the coordinates I needed. Earth 4479, region, Hong Kong, year. Modern, active Titan conflict detected. I started the alignment process. Dimensional layers overlapped, shimmering like heat. The link spread slowly through the air, unseen to any normal eye. The corridor lights flickered once, then stabilized. Below, the main deck remained busy. Batman sat before a terminal, typing reports. Superman floated near the central bay window, eyes fixed on the earth turning below. Flash and Hal Jordan argued idly about reactor maintenance, while Wonder Woman observed the comms board. None of them sensed the small distortion forming at the far end of the hangar bay. I extended my reach through the walls, letting the portal stabilize behind a layer of shadow. Its center pulsed once, glowing faintly. The system confirmed the lock. Connection established. Monsterverse active link. Entities detected. Godzilla, Kong. Through the energy field, I could see them clearly. Two giants locked in combat in the middle of Hong Kong. Buildings collapsed under their strikes. Kong swung his makeshift weapon, sparks flashing. Godzilla countered with a blast of blue atomic energy that lit the skyline. The system highlighted their life signatures. Transfer candidates identified. Confirm relocation. Yes, I whispered. The energy field expanded instantly. Space warped soundlessly. On the watchtower's hangar level, light filled the room. The alarms triggered automatically. Batman's head snapped up at once. What now? He muttered, already checking readings. Superman turned midair, eyes glowing faintly as he scanned the distortion. Energy surge, unknown origin. It's not from the portal network. They didn't see me standing above the maintenance ducts, watching as the rift opened wider. The bright orange glow deepened until the image of another world shimmered inside it. Then, without warning, both titans came through. The first impact shook the watchtower. Metal screamed against pressure as air displaced violently. Kong landed first, crouched on all fours, his chest heaving. His roar tore through the chamber, deep and raw. The force shattered light panels and bent railings. Half a second later, Godzilla followed. His claws scraped against the deck, tail swinging out behind him. Blue energy glowed along his dorsal fins, crackling bright enough to light every corridor window. The entire watchtower trembled. Batman slammed his hand against the console. Shields up. Force fields flickered across the walls. Transparent barriers shimmered around the hangar, but they were far too small for creatures of that size. Godzilla's tail brushed one of the emitters, shorting it instantly. Superman darted upward, hovering in front of the monsters. His voice stayed firm. Stop. The shout echoed through the air, strong enough to cut through the roaring. For a moment, both titans paused, turning toward him. Kong rose to his full height, head tilting slightly. Godzilla's mouth opened, a low growl building from his chest. Their instinct told them they were no longer in their world. Wonder Woman entered with her shield raised. She looked up, eyes wide but calm. What are they? Massive organisms, Batman said. Origin unknown. He typed rapidly, pulling in readings. Each one's output exceeds the tower's capacity by 100-fold. The hangar floor creaked under Kong's weight. He slammed a fist against his chest, letting out another roar. Godzilla responded, blue light beginning to gather along his back. The familiar hum of atomic charge filled the air. I watched closely from the shadows. Their instincts were the same: rivalry, territory, dominance. If left unchecked, they destroy everything. The atomic light reached its peak. Before the blast could fire, I raised my hand slightly. The energy field around Godzilla's body rippled once. The charge vanished instantly. Superman looked around, confused. The energy's gone. What happened? Batman checked his readings. It dropped to 0, like someone absorbed it. I smiled faintly, hidden behind the ventilation frame. Kong let out a low sound, unsure, then turned his attention to the new surroundings. The stars visible through the glass caught his eye, and for a moment he froze. Even for a Titan, this view was new. Godzilla's gaze followed, the glow along his spine fading completely. The League gathered below